Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Justus Parrotta 1988 podcast. Like the previous episode, this will be discussing the article Return of the Composer Performer to New Music by Virtuoso Musicians by Allan Kozinn. And it is in the San Francisco Classical Voice. I have a link to it in the description so you can find it. And what I'm doing with this particular article as a performer-composer is investigating it in terms of being a performer-composer myself. I'm a keyboardist, so organ and piano, and also a composer. So the first of the bullet points in terms of the three objectives of the composer-performer is create material that they know how to perform themselves. That means in terms of knowing their strengths, knowing their weaknesses, and knowing their limits, all within reason. What I found when I looked up the works of three of the composers in the article that Kozinn discusses is that they're more virtuosic, but that's okay, because they're writing for themselves and they know what they're doing when they write for themselves and they know their limits. They also know their strengths and they know what they're comfortable doing with at the instrument. So the composers I looked at were Timo Andres, because actually Timo Andres, he came to where I did my undergrad and graduate studies at CUA. He's a pianist, so he has an extensive piano background. I've got a link on them. Piano repertoire, it's about anywhere from 10 to 14 pieces. So that shows that he's written for the instrument he's most familiar with. Also, another one that's really neat to look at is Mari Kimura. She is a violinist. She's done works for solo violin and also works for violin in computer. So what that is interactive pieces with tape, pre-recorded sounds, and interactive pieces with computer and violin. So that's a really neat venue to look at as a composer-performer with electronics plus a solo instrument. And also works that have been written for her as well. There were some pretty prominent composers that I saw in there. I'd have to go back and look. The other composer that I have to mention that I saw in the comments section of the article by Kozinn was Lera Auerbach. One of the things is she's a pianist and conductor, and she has a very extensive piano repertoire on her site that lists various compositions that she's written for piano with violin and piano, cello and piano, bassoon and piano, voice and piano. And it's quite extensive. So what this means is that, as Dr. Barbara Lister-Sink would say, that they are downloading patterns for themselves to automaticity. And as someone who studied dance, it's almost like going to the gym and building reps or learning a new dance pattern or learning a new movement. And when you do that, you know how you are in terms of strength and weakness and what you need to work on and what is the strong point of your movement at your instrument in this case. So thank you, and see you in the next episode, which will be discussing the concept of disseminating their own works. So the composers will be disseminating or getting their music out there so people can hear it, and how that affects a performer-composer.